We're going to get started this afternoon. My name is Christopher Clement. I'm the Executive Director of Engagement and Enterprise Projects for the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here on Treaty 6 territory, the territorial lands of the Cree, the Dene, the Social Dakota, and the Homeland Community. We honor and respect the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this land and reaffirm our commitment to our shared relationship with one another. Joining us here today, and they're not seated in order, so my apologies, is Premier Scott Moe, Honorable Buckley Belanger, Secretary of State for Rural Development, Honorable Eric Schmaltz, Minister of Government Relations, and Peter Ballantyne, Cree Nation Chief, Peter Beattie. We also have SPSA Vice President of Operations, Steve Roberts, and our President and Fire Commissioner, Marlo Pritchard, who will also be giving a brief update on the wildfire situation today. Some of our officials will need to leave at 1:40 for another briefing, so our apologies. We will continue to take questions from the remainder of the officials that remain at that time. Please note that this call is being recorded and live streamed on the Premier's Facebook page. I think that's the case. And later today, the video recording will also be posted to our YouTube and Facebook pages. We will begin with an update from the Premier, followed by comments on the situational update from Marlo and Steve, followed by comments from Secretary Belanger and Chief Beattie. So with that, I will send it over to the Premier.
Thank you very much, Chris, and welcome and thank you to everyone that joined us here today, Minister Belanger, Chief Beattie, and Minister Schmaltz, as well as other vice chiefs and people that are really working together alongside what is an extremely challenging situation. And I'll just start right at the beginning is please, everyone in this province, just be very, very aware, very careful in all you're doing. If that is going into a zone where there may be active wildfires, to help or to retrieve some of your property, is to be very careful. Check with the fire officials on your way. We have had instances where people have been caught. I know there are challenges with some of the decisions that unfortunately have had to be made in a situation where we just can't have another fire in northern Saskatchewan with respect to the restrictions around quads and how that may be impacting some businesses that are operating, outfitters businesses and such. But we need to be absolutely careful in the next number of days. The next 4 to 7 days are absolutely critical until we can find our way to a change in weather patterns and ultimately a soaking rain throughout the north. I want to go through just a little bit with respect to the resources that are working throughout the northern Saskatchewan, and thank a number of jurisdictions for leaning in and supporting the efforts in northern Saskatchewan. And I would just say thank the federal government for their dialogue as well the last number of days, and thank Minister Belanger as well, as I've talked to him on numerous occasions. But we are facing in the north an extremely dry situation. We haven't had those spring rainfalls that we normally have. And I would say that these are first and foremost incredibly stressful and challenging times for those that are living in the north. Those that may have been evacuated already or are preparing to and facing evacuation, and we may see some additional evacuation in the days ahead. We saw the road to Sandy Bay was not accessible this morning. It is accessible as we speak now, but again, a very volatile situation with respect to that road. We have Sturgeon Landing that was evacuated this morning, and if we don't see rain in the near future, unfortunately, we likely are going to have additional evacuations in the days ahead. And so to those that I know are facing just a very challenging and stressful time, I ask the rest of us in this province, to reach out to those friends and family members that you might have and offer supports if you are able, but most certainly reach out and support the people that are having their very lives upset and their homes threatened by the weather conditions and ultimately the fires that we have. And let's all do our level best to ensure that we aren't in any way, accidentally or otherwise, starting any additional fires that are going to tax already significant resources, but resources that are spread pretty thin across our north. Today, we also understand that there are a number of people in the north that are communicating by cellular telephone. SaskTel has agreed as of today to waive any overage fees so that your phone won't be slowed down or cut off so that you can communicate. You're going to have access to data so that you can communicate out of the northern communities or wherever you might be in this province. And I do want to run through just the resources that we have currently working hard to defend, in many cases, their own community where they live or a neighboring community in the north. But we have 220 provincial wildland firefighters that are on the ground on the very front face of that fire. 13 additional municipal fire departments are in communities as well, helping defend those fire lines. We have 66 contractors with various levels of heavy equipment that are working on the front fire line. There's over 100 staff that are coordinating everything that is going on. There's 12 Saskatchewan aircraft, tankers, and Bird Dog airplanes that are in the air. There's 410 Type 2 Northern Community and Indigenous firefighters that are on the front lines as well. 20 to 30 helicopters are in the air. And we have a number of firefighting resources that have arrived from other jurisdictions, from Yukon, from Quebec, and more recently from Arizona, from Alaska, and Oregon. In the way of aircraft arriving from other places in Canada and North America, we have two Q400 aircraft that are here from Alaska. They've been deployed in Saskatchewan with air personnel on them. Two CL-415 aircraft have been here from Quebec, and they've been deployed for a number of days now. 5 802 aircrafts and 1 Bird Dog, along with an air attack officer, is arriving from British Columbia, and it will be deployed in Saskatchewan very, very shortly. We have reached out to all communities in the north, and we continue to reach out to communities to ensure that we collectively, whether it be federal government, provincial government, or community leaders working alongside one another to support those that unfortunately have been evacuated, to support those that are preparing at times to be evacuated, but most importantly, supporting all of our northern residents and ensuring that there is no loss of life, and there has not been thus far. And to limit and restrict and keep as a low level and hopefully no additional loss of any homes or structures in our communities. So with that, I thank everyone in this province for the support that they're providing our fellow Saskatchewanians. And I want to encourage you to continue to provide that support to those in northern Saskatchewan that are experiencing a pretty devastating situation.
Thank you, Premier. We'll now move over to Marlo Pritchard, our President and Fire Commissioner.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to acknowledge all the leaders here that have attended today and bring continued. I want to acknowledge all the leaders that have attended today and bring support for our agency and those that are on the front lines. This overview is as of 11 o'clock today. We have 16 active wildfires. 5 are categorized as contained, 7 not contained, 3 are ongoing assessment, and 1 is listed as protecting values. To date, we've had 211 wildfires, and that's well above the 5-year average of 128. And as you're quite aware that we're continuing to experience high daytime temperatures, warm evening temperatures, and high winds throughout the day, which is not assisting our wildfire suppression efforts. I'm going to just go over really quickly the fires of note. The first one is the Shoe Fire that is in Lower Fishing Lake and Narrow Hills Provincial Park. That is currently 305,343 hectares, not contained. We have crews that are working on the hot spots. We have put significant effort into this fire, and we will continue with air assets, heavy equipment, and ground assets. We did do some assessments over the last 24 hours, and we have located some additional values lost, although we're still assessing what that number will end up being. J. Smith, north of Mississippi, the highway north of La Ronge, that is 33,642 hectares. Currently protecting values, crews are still working on hotspots around the community of Brabant Lake and servicing value protection units throughout those communities. The PCU fire west of La Ronge is 61,200 hectares, not contained, and our crews continue to work on hotspots and protecting values. The Wolf Fire is over 30,000 hectares. It is not contained. We have helicopters bucketing and supporting value protection in Birch Portage and Leaf Rapids area. In the Pelican 2, northeast of Pelican Narrows, we have about 9,200 hectares. It's considered not contained. We continue action the fires around properties near the town of Pelican Narrows. We have helicopters and air assets, skimmers used as visibility allows. We talked earlier about the road being compromised. It is open now, but we encourage everyone to check the highway hotline if you are traveling in that area. The Cub Fire, north of Creighton, it's 25,000 hectares, and it's not contained. It is adjacent to the community, and there was significant action or significant runs last night due to the south winds. But the priority is to continue to protect the communities of Creighton and Denair Beach. And we also have numerous fire departments, both volunteer and composite fire departments, that have been deployed into those communities to add an extra layer of defense. We have the Ditch Fire north of Wyakwin. It's 9,700 hectares. It's considered not contained. It continues to have impacts on Highway 2. Our crews are continuing, and volunteer fire departments are continuing to work structure protection within and around the community of Wyakwin, and are continuously patrolling the highway to keep highway number 2 open. Also, because of that fire, there was an evacuation of Ramsey Bay. As I said, all these fires are currently being actioned with ground, air, and heavy equipment assets. And we continue to work, do our best to protect values and prevent further damage. As I earlier talked about, the south wind has driven a number of these fires south and are causing some challenges. We continue to have a fire ban, as was announced the other day, which includes the all-terrain vehicles. There has been no change to that. And as the Premier mentioned, I would also like to echo the thank you for our partners across Canada and the US that have assisted us with both human resources, air assets, and equipment to help us get through the very challenging time that we have. And with that, I will turn it back to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, did you have anything to add?
No further comments. I'm available for questions.
I just mentioned, Chris, I failed to mention we have Chief Bobby Cameron with the FSIN on the telephone, as well as Grand Chief Hardlop with the PAGC.
We'll open it up to the phone then if there's any comments.
Buckley, go ahead. Sorry, Minister.
If you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Premier, Minister, Chief, and of course the senior staff here. Certainly arriving at the airport at 3:30 last night, really for me, I wanted to explain to the people of Saskatchewan that we're all very concerned as to what's going on and of course in my backyard throughout the province of Saskatchewan. The last number of days we've had numerous meetings with numerous ministers, right? Everything from the National Defense to Indigenous Services Canada. And the process over the last 2 or 3 days have become more and more important and more pressing. And the Prime Minister called all his ministers together, and including myself, and said, okay, folks, we're going to do all we can to help Saskatchewan out in this particular challenge that they have. And so I did indicate that I was coming home to sit down and get an update and visit the evacuees, which we're doing today and tomorrow. And to tell the people of Northern Saskatchewan in particular, but all of the province of Saskatchewan, that, we want to share our heartfelt sympathy for those folks that have been displaced from their homes and all the concerns, what they've left behind and what they're going to find when they go back. These are always, tough things for families to ponder. We also want to thank the team that is out there, the men and women, the folks that, basically drive the cats and all the folks that fly the aircraft, to thank them and to recognize them for their incredible work. And the final thing I'll say before the questions begin is that we want to work closely with our First Nations and Métis partners to see what we can do to protect a lot of the communities that are impacted are indeed Métis First Nations, but every community, of course, is important to us. But to work forward so we can figure out how we can certainly become more engaged and stay engaged. So on behalf of the Prime Minister and the federal government, we're pleased to be here today to listen, to learn, and to support the people that have gone through this crisis, and also to sit down with the Premier and say if there's anything that the federal government can do, we'll do all we can to assist in this regard. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Chief Beatty, would you like to say a few words here? We'll pass on the microphones. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words and a few comments. I'd like to thank the Premier for inviting me to the to the briefing this afternoon, and also acknowledge Minister Smoltz and Minister Belanger, or Secretary of State, my mistake, Secretary of State Belanger, and of course to the senior staff as well this afternoon. For Peter Ballantyne, and I'd like to acknowledge as well Grand Chief Brian Hardlott, who is listening in, and we'd like to thank the Prince Albert Grand Council for all the support they've given our First Nations, especially in the Woodland Cree area of Lac La Ronge, Montreal Lake, and of course Peter Ballantyne, and also the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations Chief Bobby Cameron is listening in as well. So just to acknowledge all of the leadership and all of you that are here. Very thankful to hear that some of our roads are open, because that was our biggest concern, is that being able to get critical supplies into some of our communities. And we have 3 major communities in Peter Ballantyne that are running short of supplies. North of Lac La Ronge, we have South End Ranger Lake, and we have one of our largest communities there. But the largest community, of course, is Pelican Narrows, where we had around 4,000 people living there, and the majority of them have been evacuated. And as well, the Chameau Lake is out of supplies as well, because of the compromising of the road infrastructure. And I think my thoughts are that we should protect and keep open those routes so that critical supplies can be transported. And we're thankful for those people that are doing that, Department of Highways, SPSA, everybody that's involved in that. And of course, our First Nations as well, all of our organizations. And the thing is that if we are, I know the Premier had mentioned that there may be some rain in the forecast. It may not be a lot, but I think that it's going to calm things down for a bit. But I think we have to be prepared for that, because that's when we can actually do some work on the fires. With boots on the ground, type 3 firefighters that need to be signed up. And I thank the Premier for helping us. We did have some issues with that. And he's been trying to help us, along with Minister Schmaltz, of course, and our Secretary of State, in addressing some of those things that have to be ironed out with the provincial and federal governments. The most important thing right now, too, is air support. Pelican Narrows, where the fire is right now. And thank goodness for those firefighters that are there. They've been able to protect our most of our infrastructure in terms of houses. We did lose some, there, and also at Birch Portage. So we'd like to thank them for the great effort they put in. It's not only our firefighters, level or type 1, type 2, type 3s. It's also and I'd like to acknowledge the volunteer fire department out of Warman. So, it's a joint effort, and we've been able to save our infrastructure for the most part. We haven't had an update this morning, but we will hope it's good news. So anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for that. And going forward, like I said, we have to stress that when the relief comes in terms of rain, let's have everybody ready to go. There's a lot of logistics involved in this in terms of getting people out, getting them prepared. They have to pass fitness tests, so on and so forth. But I think that that can all be worked out with the help of the province, of course, SPSA, and the federal government. So I'll just leave that for my comments, and thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We will now go to questions and answers. But before we begin, I'd like to go to the online reporters first, just because I'm a little bit worried about our technology. So if you don't mind, we'll take some questions from the Teams meeting first, please.
Okay, so we have Aishwarya from CBC up. Question and one follow-up, please.
Thank you. We're hearing that resources are already stretched thin, including from some Indigenous leaders, that they don't have enough fire equipment, safety gear, proper evacuation plans. They're not feeling supported. What are you doing to help them?
Well, I would say that resources are stretched thin because of the severity of the situation that we're facing. And the intensity and the ferocity of the fires and the fire faces that we are facing. And we have significant, not only provincial resources, and I read through the number of people that we have on the ground, both community people, municipal fire departments, as well as our provincial resources, as well as firefighters that have came in from other jurisdictions, not just across Canada, but around the world. That over 20 aircraft that are in the air. Many of them provincial aircraft, but many of them also coming in from places like Quebec and Alaska, and now very shortly British Columbia. And so we are working alongside our federal government, our other provinces, and our communities to access as many resources as we can. But I agree that they are stretched thin because of the severity of the situation that we are facing in the north. And that's why we're asking people in the north to be very, very careful. We cannot manage and handle a single other fire. We are using all of the resources that we have, whether it be in supporting our frontline firefighters with the contractors, the air support, or additional people alongside them, or whether it be supporting the people that are living in the north that unfortunately may have to be evacuated as well through, working with the Red Cross, working with community leaders to ensure that they have a place to go and can evacuate safely. So when people say they're feeling that resources are stretched thin, they're right. They are. But it doesn't discount that there aren't significant resources that are working to control the situation as best we can.
Thank you. I just have a follow-up. Have you called for a request for assistance from the feds? And if not, why?
Well, the request for assistance, and Marla, you may just clarify on this. It goes into a number of different agreements that we have, largely with other provinces and states throughout North America. Every level of government and different governments have different resources that they can offer. For example, the federal government doesn't have water bombing air support. Other provinces and states around North America do, and we're seeing those resources come in. However, we did see 10 years ago in Saskatchewan where we had some military support. And so I leave it to the professionals working with community leaders, with the professionals within the firefighting realm and the SPSA on when and where we call for the supports that are required to do our level best to protect our communities and to keep people safe. And so we are seeing a number of supports come in, but largely those supports are coming from provinces and states as such. But there are opportunities, I think, and when the SPSA would call for them, there are opportunities for maybe some supports to come from the federal government, but they might not be the supports that we need just critically at this moment in time. But Marlo, anything to add to that?
I'll just quickly go over the process. It really is a layered process for getting assets. The first layer, of course, is the SPSA Type 1 crews, and we would activate them. Then we go to our Type 2 community crews, many of them First Nation community crews across the north. We would then go into our compacts, which the Premier talked about. Those are longstanding agreements with provinces, states, and also international partners. So what we would do is, and we have already got there, is that we are now accessing resources through those compacts. And so we are, again, across the whole nation, we're pulling resources, and now we're into the United States, and we will continue to do and assess the needs for future resources. The RFA that you were talking about from the federal assistance, it's definitely a part of that contingency planning, but it is one of the last steps before we activate it.
So just to clarify, that call has not been made. I'm just getting some confusion around this because Manitoba's wildfire situation seems a lot smaller, but they have made that call. So why haven't we, when, like you said, resources are stretched thin?
By acres, it's smaller, but by people impacted in Manitoba, it's about double the size. I think they're well over 17,000 that have been evacuated. We're over 8,000 and climbing quickly, which speaks to the severity of the situation that we are having here. Well, the one resource that I saw Manitoba had requested was an air evacuation of a community that was either cut off or did not have the ability to leave by road. We heard Chief Beatty speak earlier about the critical infrastructure being the road access into the community, so that people can leave and so that if they are there, you can get supplies in. And I think what we saw in Manitoba was an instance, more than one instance, where that access was not available for some reason or another. We haven't ran into that directly, and I won't speak out of turn with respect to the officials. But, should we run into that, that would be an example of where we would very quickly request an access, quite likely access, federal resources. And so it's about the resource that you actually require at that point in time. If the federal government traditionally doesn't have water bombing support, if they did, we would be requesting that at this point, but we're not. The other place there's resources available in provinces and states, but is continued resources, and credit to PAGC and Chief Beatty and their team. Cliff, thank you with the meetings we had the other day. But working to recertify some level 3 firefighters in the communities as well that were certified. Maybe their certification has lapsed and we're able to recertify those. And there is a few nuances between the federal and provincial government that I thank Minister Belanger for, and other ministers that I think we're able to navigate and work through. To enhance, for example, level 3 firefighters, which will become imperative should we get a couple of days of rain and kind of mopping up and really extinguishing some of the fires that we have. So there's different resources that are available from different locations. Should that one of those locations be the federal government, we certainly would, that request would go in, and I leave that to Marlo and Steve and their team to make it. But I have also had great indications or strong indications from not only Minister Belanger, but other ministers as well, that if those resources could be provided, they will be. There is another space, I think, where we can work alongside the federal government. Minister Belanger and I had this discussion, and it's to support some of the agencies that are providing evacuation support as well. As our evacuation numbers climb, and they probably are going to over the next number of days, we are going to be increasingly constrained in the supports for those people that are displaced from their home. And so we're having, I'd say, very active conversations and how do we support those agencies and those communities that are supporting those people that are displaced from their home for a period of time. So the federal government has been I think a strong partner throughout these conversations, and I thank them for that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Alex Silberman, you're up next.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm hoping to ask about that challenge of finding a place to house these evacuees. You mentioned, Premier Moe, that if these conditions continue, more people might need to evacuate. And we are hearing that there's some challenges when it comes to space in Prince Albert and Saskatoon. We're hearing that there's some pre-existing events, including sports tournaments, that are filling up the hotels and making it difficult for evacuees to continue to stay in some of those hotels. There's little to no rooms available in Prince Albert at the moment. Many hotels in Saskatoon are full. How are you planning and preparing to house more evacuees, especially if we do see more evacuations in the coming days?
I expect that we will, and I would expect that, and I would say that the resources that we have today to support evacuees are still present. However, they're going to become increasingly tight in the days ahead, which is going to make the partnerships that we have at the provincial level with the federal government, but also with the community level and third-party agencies like the Red Cross that are helping in this space, helping in supporting communities and supporting individuals and supporting families that are evacuated from their communities. And so it's going to be, I would suspect, and this is some of the planning that is happening now and some of the discussions that are happening now, and you may hear more about this in the next day or so, but it's going to be an all hands on deck using every available resource that we have, whatever that might be at the community, provincial and federal level. And it's also, I would say this to the people in the provinces, if you have a friend or a family member that is being evacuated from the north and you have the ability to host them and to provide them with a place to stay for a period of time, it's greatly appreciated to the whole of the effort that we are going to have to undertake today and in the days ahead. Because I do fear with the weather that we are seeing in the next 4 to 7 days that we are going to have more people evacuated in the next number of days as opposed to less. In fact, we had, as I said, Sturgeon Landing, another community evacuated this morning. But Minister Belanger or Chief Beattie, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, all I would say, the Prime Minister has made one directive to all the ministers that are involved, and there are multi-federal ministers engaged. Basically, the instructions are we're going to do all we can from Canada's perspective to assist Saskatchewan in this regard. So all of our ministers, the key ministers that are engaged in this, whether it's Indigenous Services Canada, National Defense, the Emergency Measures Office, all of these departments are lined up to do what they have to do when we get the call from the Premier. It is obviously important that we collaborate and we coordinate with the officials and with the Premier, because we can be tripping over ourselves trying to help and make this thing and manage this battle against the forest fire situation. So I think there's got to be some really good coordination. And the bottom line, the message is from our Prime Minister, Saskatchewan's important. All we can do to help, we're ready to go.
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment. I just want to make a quick comment in terms of the with housing our evacuees. It is a challenge. It's a great challenge. We have a lot of people out there, not only from Peter Ballantyne, but from other First Nations as well, communities, different communities. Like the Premier said, we have Creighton and Flin Flon, which are urban centers that have been evacuated. So this is it's a big challenge, and also pre-existing events are displacing our evacuees in the urban centers. But we're working closely with the city of Prince Albert and Saskatoon, and also with the Federation of Saskatchewan, Sovereign Indigenous Nations and their personnel. And we've been able to find hotel accommodations using their volunteers and their workers as well, in conjunction with our workers and our counselors as well. And so we're doing all of that, and acknowledge as well that, at some point we may have to use congregate shelter for maybe a couple of days, but that is not the optimum for our people, because you can imagine what that's like. It's not very good. So anyway, we will continue to work towards more stable accommodations, and hopefully this is not going to stretch into weeks. I mean, that's what I'm praying for. But anyway, I just want to make that comment. Thank you very much.
Chief Cameron has a comment here as well. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers are with all those individuals that are being evacuated, those families. We thank all the organizations and governments that are here to help and support moving forward. Of course, we ask everybody in this province and across our treaty territories to continue to pray that we continue to pray that we get rain after our no lives lost. Now, on the flip side of the thing, can you still hear me?
We got you.
So I'm not sure if they're receiving these calls, but I started to get those down in 3 days. Now that provides a danger to families and children that are in yards, right? I just wanted to highlight that. But I certainly don't want to lose or have anybody injured due to a bear trying to find shelter from fire. Very challenging times for sure. Unprecedented fire, unfortunately. Again, we thank everybody chipping in to do your part to address the evacuees, but to address the fires. And moving forward, when we do come together and finally come to the point where people can go back home and the fires dissipate, that we have a thorough plan together, federal, national, and First Nation groups. In a room together to action on the plan in the event that this does happen again. And it will, unfortunately. But we're going to work together.
Thank you, Chief. And I have, what do you? Thank you,
Yeah.
Chief Cameron.
I
We have
think
Chief
they-
Hardlaw here. Speaker.
Yeah, it's on speaker.
Go ahead, Grand Chief. Oh, I got you on mute there. Go ahead. Greg. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
The state of emergency that I've been calling you, that's why we're having this meeting. Hopefully that Thursday, we're understanding what we're talking about here, but yeah. I thank everybody around the table that's there, and also the on the call. I know just one thing I really wanted to mention in the way I think when we say short of equipment, forest fire fighting equipment, the manufacturers of forest fire equipment have sometimes 3 water pumps, the hoses, the water bags, for those. But I just want to thank the agreements that we've had. Prince Albert Grand Council is able to help because of the federal EMAP funding that's been available for us the last number of years, but also with the provincial government, the agreements, that's very important. And we don't forget about that. That we're able to still train those type 3 firefighters that we need in and for the Moffat it's very important, that agreement. We have that agreement and we're doing that training. We have to try to put those people, sign them up that we've been training. So I just wanted to make a reminder for that. A very important partnership with Forward, the state emergency called very important for the federal government. They've established a critical response group that's made out of some ministers. I think they might be part of that, so that they're doing their work. And a mutual aid resource sharing agreement, very important, but we all know that's pretty stretched with all the fires in Western Canada. So thank you. I just want to say that to everybody here, thank you very much, and pray for rain. That's all I can say, and thank you for letting me make some comments. Did you get an estimate down?
Thank you, Grand Chief.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience for those in the room here. We're going to open it up to questions in the room and we'll start down at the end.
I just have one. Do you have to go?
No,
Oh, you're still sitting around. I thought you were leaving.
Steve had to go.
Or just Steve? Okay. So I just have Michael, just one question of clarity. Is you referred to it just as the shoe fire? Is that the name of the combined fires or is it just the shoe fire?
We call it the shoe fire. Yes.
Okay, that is the name of the two combined.
Yes, combined.
Okay, is change titles and this is my first time at one of these. So, okay, that was my only question. For now. Might have enough.
And again, one question, one follow-up.
My question is for Premier Moe. So we are June the 1st, and you said that there were already more than 8,000 evacuees today. So my question will be, why is the support for evacuees divided between the SPSA, the government, the Red Cross, other third-party agencies, and First Nations? And why doesn't the government merge the response towards evacuees?
We use all of the tools that we have available in supporting evacuees and have for many years now. Many communities, Peter Valentine would be one that has agreements with the Red Cross agency. Red Cross receives funding from various levels, donations to provincial government. We have a contract with the Red Cross to support evacuees in this case or in other disaster cases, as does the federal government, and many communities do as well, as a case point. And so the Red Cross is a very valuable partner that's able to ramp up the quantity of their operations to support people in a disaster situation like this, not just in Saskatchewan, but also in Manitoba and as well in Alberta. As a number of forest fires as well. We have provincial resources in that space as well. And then many communities actually will have their own resources in that space. And so what we do is it's a sum of the whole when it comes to the approach and how we support evacuees. That being said, as these numbers unfortunately may climb over the next number of days from 8,000 to 10,000, I believe 10 years ago we were at 17,000 in the province. And it was at that point in time that we had to use every resource that we had, not only every partner like the Red Cross in our communities, but every resource that we had. And Manitoba is at that point now where they are using some congregate emergency shelters in a few of their, I guess I call them semi-northern communities to support those for short-term stays. But that is not the goal. But we may unfortunately get to that point for a short period of time in this province as well through our third parties and others. And so it's about providing support. It's about providing resources and really providing hope for these aren't buildings and it isn't just the vast north. These are communities, and these are homes, and these are families that are being displaced. And so we use every resource that we can to support them, including the Red Cross, including communities, including other agencies, including the provincial supports that we have as well. This is a space, knowing what might be coming in the next number of days, this is a space where there's been some active conversations with the federal government. And I just would say thanks to Mr. Belanger for his part in those conversations. Any comment on local supports, Chief Beatty or Buckley?
I would point out that, the federal government is going to do all that they can. That's specific instructions by our Prime Minister. That's not to say that agencies haven't been involved. I think Indigenous Services Canada has had a long relationship with many First Nations leaders over time, and they've given that support already. So a lot of federal government departments are engaged. But there's a lot more that are ready to do what they have to do, what's necessary. And of course, it's important to coordinate with the effort that Saskatchewan's undertaking. And that's the whole team approach that we're taking when it comes to engaging a lot of other federal agencies, such as, the armed forces. So we've had a lot of robust discussion around the table. And the bottom line is we've moved on some things. But coordination, cooperation, and collaboration are really important to the federal government. And we certainly work very closely with the Premier Moe and then the government of Saskatchewan, trying to do the best for the people that are going through the tough struggles, and to also recognize Red Cross, recognize workers out there, but more importantly, the people that are being displaced and their homes that are being threatened.
I just had a clarifying question regarding the federal government's role. I'm wondering if you can kind of specify exactly what assistance you anticipate them playing, either in evacuation or in combating of the fires, and at what point do you see us leaning on that support more? If
The federal government?
yes,
So just maybe first, do you want to comment on the,
Yeah,
the red, because you utilize the Red Cross?
yes, we do. Yeah, we have utilized Red Cross, but, and I'd like to acknowledge them. You know, there have been, bumps in the road with regard to that, but, you know, that's something that has to be, acknowledged that, they are putting in an effort. And, also acknowledging our own local, agencies as well. Peter Ballantyne is a huge First Nation, as well as Lac La Ronge and Montreal Lake, and we have our agencies, just to name a few, we have our education authorities, we have our Indian Child and Family Services agencies, and our health services agencies. So all of these that we have at our disposal, and they're putting in time and resources to accommodate and to help our evacuees. And you know, we have to acknowledge that as well, that it's not just outside agencies, but also our own internal agencies that are providing the service and helping with the evacuations. So very quickly, you know, we have a lot of moving parts here, and everything has to be coordinated well in order for these things to fall into place. And we have to acknowledge that it is a big effort with province-wide. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. You had a clarifying question?
yeah, I guess I'm just essentially wondering if you can specify exactly what role you see the federal government playing, either in evacuation or combating the fires.
Yeah, there's federal roles, there's provincial roles, there's municipal roles, and then they overlap, I think, in many cases. I would say they overlap to support people and support communities. In this case, from a fire in our north. The federal government has various resources they may be able to deploy. We saw that with an inaccessible community in Manitoba, where they were able to provide air support to evacuate folks from that community. The provincial government has a role as well, as largely the air support, the agreements that we have with other provinces and states to share resources back and forth over decades, not just years, but decades, is largely at the provincial level. However, the municipalities and communities and First Nations also have resources in that firefighting space as well. Chief Beattie had mentioned that the volunteer firefighters from Warman were in Pelican Narrow and have great experience, and I said bring a lot of experience when it comes to should there be any structure fires in that community as well. Should the fire actually enter into there, and then I would say more broadly we would work together, in particular the provincial and federal government, but also alongside and take guidance from the communities, from third-party organizations such as the Red Cross on, how do we even go further and financially support those that are very much on the ground when it comes to supporting evacuated families for a period of time. How do we support them through agreements and through funding in ensuring that we are keeping their community as safe as possible in the in-between time with fire guards and berms and things of that nature. So it does overlap to some degree, but it's about what resources do you have. And in the case of should we require, for example, an airlift resource, I have no doubt that the federal government and the military would be there very quickly to provide it. And we have not run into that particular situation yet. I hope we don't. And they have in Manitoba, and the federal government was there for the residents and families of that community. And I know they would be here as well, because 10 years ago we did have military troops that were deployed and were in this very room when we had a similar but different situation. Anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add, just in terms of, again, this issue is really important to the federal government. And I go back to the question, who does what, when, where, and how? These are all complex questions, and we take a lot of advice from the officials out in the field. And certain departments are engaged already. I make reference to the Indigenous Service portfolio. But as well, you look at the armed forces, our Canadian armed forces. Speaking with the federal minister on this particular matter, he said within 24 hours we can move. So there's different components of the federal government that are ready to move, have made some effort already, and there's others that are certainly prepared to do all they can to assist Saskatchewan. As I've said at the outset, the Prime Minister's made it abundantly clear to all his ministers that when and if Saskatchewan needs our engagement, we are going to be there. So I want to make sure that we share that message today. And I think cooperating with the province and the Premier is really key on this. I think we all want to strive to the same goal. So I think overall, we don't want to take too much of these gentlemen's time because they got forced to, to protect and fires to put down. But really just the message that we are ready to help in any capacity that we can.
Marlo, do you have a little more official comment on that, or?
I think what I will just echo is that I appreciate at every level of the support, from the across the province, across the federal. I'm in contact at my level with both provincial and federal representatives almost on a daily basis now. And I can assure you that there is a willingness to help Saskatchewan when and if necessary. At every level. And so you can see that we're all pulling together. And you've heard me say this again, it's going to take all of us to get through these next days, weeks, whatever this is. And I can tell you that I can assure you that is the message that we're getting from all across Canada.
For Mr. Moe, what could lead to ask for military help? What would be the turning point right now? Because you said that we can't manage to have another fire, so would that be enough to ask for that?
Well, what led to that request in Manitoba was having an inaccessible community that needed to be evacuated. So they'd asked us if we were faced with something like that. That would be an example of asking for military air support in Saskatchewan as well. It was 10 years ago. We did have some on the ground troops that were here helping in some of the after we had some rain. Actually, the chief. After we'd had some rain, they were here to help kind of clean up some of the make sure that fires were out and weren't going to reoccur in the drier times over the summer. And so that call would come from Marlo and his team and the professionals in the Saskatchewan, the SPSA. It wouldn't come from a politician. However, this is where you would have very much support from a politician. Myself reaching out to Minister Belanger, reaching out to other ministers in the federal government, maybe even in other provinces, which we have already, in support of the requests that would come through the official agreements that our SPSA has. And just to echo Marlo's comments, those conversations have been pretty warmly received thus far. That's why you've seen about 80 to 100 additional firefighters that are arriving shortly, as well as another 6 or so air tankers that are arriving as well from other provinces and states.
And because of the numbers of fire right now, do you expect to later during the season to have that call?
I hope it rains. And it isn't about the number of the fires, and it isn't about the size of the fires. It's about where the fires are and if they're impacting and threatening a community and families. I remember a few years ago, Minister Belanger and I were talking where we had this challenge in a different part of the province, in his home community of Isle La Crosse. And the fire was threatening a road for a period of time. And then with the northwest winds, it came down that peninsula to Isle La Crosse and was greatly, greatly threatening the community. And so it isn't about the size of fire, and it isn't even about the number of fires. It's about where those fires are and which families and communities they are threatening with the winds that we have. And unfortunately, Chief, you've seen all too much threat in the communities that you represent this year. So I don't know if you have a comment on that.
Yes, thank you, Premier, for that. I think, that when it comes to calling in the military, I think that has to be a very extreme situation where people are cut off from road access and, it's threatening human life. At that point, then you want to do an airlift of those that are in that location. And, we haven't gotten there yet. And when it does, I'm confident that we can get that, as the Premier just mentioned. And so I think we have a lot of human resources in terms of firefighters. If it rains, that we can bring them to bear, and you need to do that in order to keep that fire down and to prevent that reoccurring, or as we say, taking off again. Because it has to be, there's certain things that have to be done to make sure that you can hold that fire from starting over again. Because what will happen is we'll get some rain for a period of time. You know, things will quiet down. That's when you work. And then if we get another hot spell, and if it's still there, it's going to take off again. So we want to prevent all of that. And so that's what the Premier was saying, is that, you know, we need all the available firefighters out there, ones that maybe need to be recertified, some that have to be certified. And of course, the SPSA and the Grand Council and FSIN are lending their help in doing that and making those available, as well as the, of course, they have to be properly resourced in terms of equipment as well. So I'll just leave it there.
On that topic, Minister Schmaltz did this both as an MLA and as a Minister of Government Relations and Community Relations. You have a couple of comments here.
Yeah, thanks, Premier. Just to mention off the top that I want to thank again the community members and you know, the local people, even in their heroic efforts in trying to combat and save their communities from these fires. This morning we had information that Sandy Bay had been cut off by fire. I understand now that has been reopened intermittently. They're allowing that to the egress of people to continue. With respect to Candle Lake this morning, I have reports that the fire break has been is near construction to near completion. There's 13 dozers working in that area. When we have an opportunity like that, normally these fire breaks are constructed in the off season in conjunction with our federal partners through grant funding in communities through the Fire Smart program that's administered through the SPSA. But when we have an emergent situation like this, an exigent crisis barreling down on a community, we try to take action when and where we can, and that's happening at Candle Lake right now. And you know, we'll be reevaluating and moving those resources elsewhere through Marlo and his team. But again, been in contact with Mayor Fiddler from Creighton last night, and he is indicating that they are receiving some good support from firefighting efforts there. So they're holding their own. So again, wanted to make sure that we thank all of the leadership in the communities across the province, particularly in the north, both First Nations and non-First Nations communities, and we looking to see them through the other side of this. Thank you.
I think we have time for one last question.
I just wanted to know if possible.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, you can go.
I have one more. So we've been talking a lot about resources, but do you guys access like forestry as a resource, experts in the forestry field, to possibly mitigate in advance at the beginning or mitigate during the process?
Yes. Marlo, do you want to speak to that? And I'm going to have a comment on it as well.
Minister Schmaltz alluded to it, that really a lot of the mitigation efforts is done in the off season during the winter. And we have programs through Fire Smart. We identify high-risk communities. We have trained mitigation specialists within SPSA that will go out and work with community leaders and communities. And that is when we really want to encourage communities to do this, to do it when we're not faced a crisis, because we can do the fire breaks, the emergent fire breaks, but to do it properly and hopefully long-lasting, want to do it before the fire breaks out. So, yeah. but we do coordinate that. We again work with the federal government at many different levels to get the support, financial support to make that happen. Yeah. It's in the off season
because there is lots of resources. Yes.
Let me just add something to that if I can. Yes. I just want to add to the topic of resources. It's really inspiring to see the amount of community members and business owners and people of industry that work in heavy construction, reaching out, trying to offer up their access to their assets to be used in fighting these fires. So those people that are doing that, I want to say thank you to them as well.
Just a comment though on the forestry resource cut plans that we have, obviously there's a balance that we try to work through and have been attempting to work through for a number of years now with our various forestry companies and industries, many of which have Indigenous ownership in them as well, which I would say is the first significant step to actually advancing that conversation around what a cut plan might look like, respecting Indigenous land. Chief Beattie and I were just talking about access to traditional medicines and such, but also respecting communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities with that cut plan. But also ensuring that cut plan is creating fire breaks of old growth forests that will burn at one point in time, like we are seeing here today. And so, that is the eternal balance that, we try to encourage in that discussion as forestry companies, many of them, as I say, significant Indigenous ownership, as they have those conversations with people that live in the area as we move along. So, always more work to do in that space, but I think there's been more significant work done in that space in the last 10 or so years than maybe the 30 years previous to that.
I know on the end here, you haven't had a chance to ask.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if we know the precise numbers of firefighters that are in the province as of today.
I can go through what I had here, Marlo, once, and then I don't know if you have any totals on it or not, but what we have here today is 220 provincial wildfire fighters, 13 municipal departments that have numerous firefighters in those, like we have in Pelican. We have 66 contractors that are working. As you say, over 10 of those cats are working on the fire berm at Candle Lake. More than 100 staff that are coordinating the operations. We have 12 of our provincially owned aircraft are in the air, 410 Type 2 Northern Community Indigenous firefighters that are working on the front lines, 20 to 30 helicopters that are working on the front lines, not only from Saskatchewan are these folks but from the Yukon, from Quebec, and now coming in from Arizona, Alaska, Oregon, and British Columbia as well. So in addition to the 20 to 30 helicopters and the 12 aircraft, the provincially owned aircraft, there's 2 more aircraft from Alaska, 2 more from Quebec, and 6 coming in from British Columbia. So over 20 planes, 20 to 30 helicopters, and hundreds, if not thousands of people on the ground defending their community and defending our provinces north. Anything to add to that, Arnold?
No, I think you covered them all, Premier.
And how much of additional support do we expect in the coming days?
Additional which, sorry?
Additional support. Do you have a number of how many firefighters or support are supposed to come in?
Well, Marlo, maybe you can speak to some of that is coming from British Columbia, Arizona, Oregon.
SPSA, our operational staff assess the situation on a daily basis. So these numbers can ebb and flow as we face further challenges over the coming days. We may request more teams from our partners, but we currently have, as the Premier mentioned, we do have some teams coming from BC that we expect coming in the next coming weeks. We've got some specialists coming also in the coming weeks. So we have a number of them that are still, I guess, in the queue, but that number could change, that could increase as we continue to assess the evolving situation.
Okay, I think with that, we're going to conclude the event today. If you have any further follow-up questions, please send them to media.spsa@gov.sk.ca. And I want to thank our officials for taking the time to be here today. We will have another media briefing tomorrow. Details around that will be coming out later today. Thank you.